Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at the brand new Mega Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Mega Lucario. Mega Lucario can be caught via in-person or remote raids during the Mega Lucario Raid Day. And if you catch a Lucario, it learns the brand new legacy move, Force Palm. So, I did a couple remote raids. The best I got was a 12-15-15, and I powered it all the way up to level 50. And Mega evolved it so we can test out how Mega Lucario does in some practice Mega Master League battles. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Hopping into the first match, picking up a tough lead, Mega Lucario versus Landorus. I save switch into Zacian. Opponent is now going to respond with a Mega Steelix. Mega Steelix, unfortunately, is a wall to the typical Zacian moveset, which is Wild Charge and Play Rough. The good news for me is that I am double resisting the Dragon Tails here, but with Mega Steelix, the question will be, is it on Earthquake or Heavy Slam? Heavy Slam, a decent amount cheaper than Earthquake, and will hit for super effective damage. They fire off the move, and they are on Earthquake. Okay, this means that this is actually not awful for the Zacian. Play Rough comes pretty close to knocking out here. They can survive it, but not super well. Opponent is going to elect to use a shield. They're firing off energy. I'm going to let this through. Opponent is going to full send the Earthquake, and in comes Mega Lucario. And right off the bat, that Force Palm animation is amazing. In comes Landorus. I send in the Palkia. Opponent is going to be debuffing me with the Sandsear Storm before they switch out to whatever's in the back. And in the back, it is Dialga, and debuffed. This is not looking good for my Palkia. I'm going to fire off the Spatial Rend. Spatial Rend is going to connect, but since it's debuffed, they don't have to respect it. I'm all in on Mega Lucario. I need Mega Lucario to somehow clutch this game. I shield up the Iron Head. They do survive, so I get one extra Force Palm. In comes the Landorus. It all comes down to this. I go for the power-up punch bait. Opponent commits the shield. Mega Lucario gets to the Shadow Ball and boosted. I think this could be enough to KO. Shadow Ball knocks out the Landorus, and despite terrible alignment, we're able to take the win. Great lead in the next match, Mega Lucario versus Dialga. It's a Dragonite save switch. I can farm up to a power-up punch, send in the Zacian, and unfortunately for my opponent, they are completely walled. Dragon Claw, double resisted, Superpower single resisted. They're going to go for the Dragon Claw, and I'm immediately firing off the Play Rough. One thing you may notice about Mega Lucario is Mega Lucario, when Mega'd and level 50'd, only gets to about 42 to 4300 combat power. This means that if you look at Dialga, it's actually a lower combat power than a lot of the regular Master League legendaries. This is due to the fact that its attack stat is incredibly high, but its defense and HP are not whatsoever. So it is lacking massively in stats compared to a lot of the other Megas. The Iron Head will pick up the KO. In the back is a Water Gun Mega Slowbro, and I build up to the Shadow Ball. I bait with the power-up punch, and I get the shield. That's a massive bait. These Force Palms now really starting to add up. I'm thinking Lightning can strike twice. The double bait and the double shield. These Force Palms are resisted, but they sure don't look it. Shredding through that Slowbro. I can shield, make it to the Shadow Ball, and I just want to see that Force Palm damage on Dialga. Mega Lucario is now 2 stages boosted. In comes the Dialga. It gets deleted by fast moves, and we're able to take the win. Decent lead in the next match, Mega Lucario versus Duskmane. Opponent is going to farm up. They're going to send in a Mega Ampharos safe switch, and I respond with my Snarl Zacian. Zacian is going to be hit with the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch doesn't do a ton of damage here, but honestly, Mega Ampharos is a bit of a core breaker for this team. I debated potentially sending in the Palkia, but I decided to bring in the Zacian here, but these Volt Switches and Thunder Punches are really adding up. So it looks like I may actually end up losing Switch, and they're at another one. And this is suddenly not looking too good for me. I am going to be farming up and firing off the Play Rough. Play Rough will pick up the knockout if my opponent lets it through, and they do let that go. In comes Duskmane. I'm going for the Wild Charge. Here, I really don't want to give up a farm down. So instead of just letting it go, which is what I should have, I send in the Palkia. This is a big mistake because I've now switch locked myself. I should have just let myself get farmed down because in the back is Zekrom. And if I just didn't switch lock myself, this game is a win. I bring in Mega Lucario. I see one win con. I'm full sending the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball does get shielded by the Zekrom. Zekrom is going to make it to a Fusion Bolt. And unfortunately, that will be enough to knock out Mega Lucario. If I just didn't switch lock myself, it was looking good. But unfortunately, the game ends in a loss. We've got a tough lead in the next match, Mega Lucario versus the Mega Heracross. But the Zacian save switch is answered with Dawn Wings, and I run Snarl on my Zacian now specifically because it allows me to do way better against both forms of Necrozma. I go for the Wild Charge, I lose Charge Attack priority, I cannot afford to get hit with the Moongeist Beam, so I will expend a shield. I'm firing off the Wild Charge, opponent is going to double shield the Dawn Wings. Dawn Wings is going to be firing off a move. I know I survived the Dark Pulse here. The question is, can I survive the Shadow Claws? And I actually get the new mechanic, also known as Damage Registration Error. That doesn't happen very often, but that's a very clutch time to get it, as that guarantees me switch advantage. And now, I'm going to be able to put Palkia on the Mega Heracross. And I've used Mega Heracross before. It's very powerful. I will respect the close combat. In the back is Kyurem, and look at the Force Palms. Kyurem, I am so sorry. Mega Lucario just on a rampage. They go for the Glaciate to debuff the Mega Lucario. That's going to allow the Kyurem to survive that last Force Palm with a fraction of HP and make it to a last second move. I am debuffed, which means I'm not going to be outputting a lot of damage here versus the Mega Heracross. The Shadow Ball will land. That still does add up a little bit though, and I'm going to be able to make it to the Spatial Rend. By the time I got there, Aqua Tail probably would have KO'd, but a Spatial Rend is going to be able to guarantee the knockout. We got a terrible lead, Mega Lucario versus Dawn Wings. I'm save switching into the Zacian, and Dawn Wings is staying in. Honestly, this is great. This is exactly where I want this Pokemon to be, because these Snarls are shredding my opponent. I'm farming up, and I'm going to be firing off the Play Rough, looking to apply some pressure onto the Dawn Wings. Dawn Wings is going to commit the shield. I continue to farm with the Zacian. I could have Wild Charge there, but I didn't want to throw on alignment, so I will commit the shield. There is the Moongeist Beam, and now I'm firing off the Wild Charge. Wild Charge will allow me to make 2, so they are just going to let this through. And now they're sending out a Dragon Tail Mega Garchomp, and this is so bad. I got rid of one Mega Lucario counter, and here's another. I'm forced to just throw away the Palkia here. Opponent actually doesn't throw the Outrage. They hold on to their energy, and they are going to be sending in Zygarde. Zygarde will be smacked with a Spatial Rend. That does a lot of damage. My biggest issue now is that my switch clock will not be up. So I'm going to be able to get farm with the Mega Lucario, but the issue is I can't potentially catch onto the Zacian. Zacian, I believe, is 4 off of a Play Rough, so I am going to get a nice Force Palm farm down here. In comes the Mega Garchomp, and Garchomp will be able to pick up the knockout with the Earth Power. It all comes down to this. It will be a race. Can I make it to the Play Rough before they make it to the Earth Power? It's a CMP tie, and Mega Garchomp will win that by a mile. They're actually on Sand Tomb, and Sand Tomb is going to give my opponent the win. Amazing lead in the next match, Mega Lucario versus the Mega Tyranitar. Opponent gets a smackdown head start at the cost of a decent amount of health, and they send in Landorus. Landorus versus Palkia, a matchup we know very well from the Open Master League. They're going to be able to debuff and have the pacing advantage. My goal is to continue to apply pressure. They need a Stone Edge to KO here. I decide to let this through. It is just going to be the Sandsear, and I'm going to be able to make the Aqua Tail. That's very nice. Are they willing to go down 2 shields for switch? If they are, then I can potentially Play Rough them later, but they let it go. So they did go down 1 shield, but now they're going to get some farm on Tyranitar. Tyranitar exits with energy. In comes Lucario. In the back, it's going to be Dawn Wings, and I'm not baiting. A bait is too risky. I am going to be firing off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does get shielded. In comes Zacian, and I have a pretty clear path to victory. Moongeist does not KO here. It does a ton of damage, but I can survive it. Opponent ends up baiting, and I'm just going to click Play Rough as soon as I get the move. As landing this will guarantee me a win con. The Play Rough is going to connect. They're firing off energy, and I'm just going to save 2 shields for the Mega Lucario. Mega Lucario, I want to be the star of the show today. Unfortunately, these Force Palms are triple resisted due to the Ghost Psychic typing, so I'm going to go for the Power Up Punch. That still does not KO, and now in comes the Tyranitar. These are boosted Force Palms. The Tyranitar still almost farms me down. That's the difference in stats here. The difference in stats is insane. We got a terrible lead in the next match, leading Mega Lucario into Mega Swampert. I save switch into the Zacian. Opponent is going to be firing off the Hydro Cannon on very good timing. And now they're actually going to attempt a Play Rough catch onto Avalugg. Here's where having close combat would be nice. I don't have close combat, but my opponent does not know that, as they will commit the shield. That's great for me, as now I'm going to get a ton of farm with Lucario, but they're going to go for an undercharge on the Icy Wind. That's actually a really good play by my opponent, because they don't want to give the Lucario farm. So instead, they're just going to get a massive farm down. I make a player off plus a wild charge. So that does mean that I do get some damage on this, but of course damage means that's less farm for the Lucario. In comes Mega Lucario. The Force Palm's hitting for double super effective. They debuff me with the Icy Wind. I do get the farm down, and when they bring in Swampert, I'm switching into Palkia. In comes Palkia. They're farming up energy with the Swampert, and I am going to respect the potential Earthquake. They bait me with the Hydro Cannon. In the back is Dawn Wings. And honestly, this feels pretty okay. I decide to full send the Spatial Rend. I'm thinking they're going to try and call the bait, but they shield, and suddenly, things do not feel nearly as clear. I am going to make it to the Aqua Tail because they let me get there. The Aqua Tail will do some nice damage, and I'm just going to let this go. Dark Pulse does not KO. It will get me pretty low, though. They will go for the Dark Pulse. Can they get the farm down? They can. And now I'm going to need Mega Lucario to try and clutch here. That Mega Swampert is still very healthy, and they're very close to a move. So I just need to be able to make it to a Shadow Ball and hope that the Shadow Ball can KO. It all comes down to this. Mega Lucario, can a Shadow Ball knock out? It cannot, and again, that's the stat product difference there, where Mega Lucario just doesn't have the stats that a lot of other Megas do, so it does make it a lot tougher to use. We pick up a decent lead in the next match, Mega Lucario versus Palkia. I'm going to bank a power-up punch and save switch into Zacian. They stay in to throw energy, which works for me, because I would much rather have Palkia here. I'm watching for a catch, so I'm just over-farming, and they're not switching out. This tells me that whatever Mega they have in the back could very well be weak to Zacian as well. So I am going to be firing off this Play Rough. The Play Rough is going to be shielded. It definitely seems like whatever Mega they have in back is something that they do not want to let Zacian see. I will commit the shield. I think I can double up on Wild Charges here. I'm running out of HP, but I get to the back-to-back. That is massive. Let's go, Zacian. Wild Charge picks up the KO. I'm just spamming Wild Charge, and it's a Buzzwole. Okay, the opponent bringing out the spice. The Wild Charge is going to connect. In comes Palkia. And Palkia, I know that I can survive any one move from the Buzzwole. So I'm going to let this through, and we'll have to see what is that Mega in the back. I continue to farm. I'm forced to throw because I don't want them to make it to a superpower. I'm hoping it's something that Mega Lucario can do well against. In the back, they have their own Mega Lucario. So my opponent also doing some early remote raids, which is terrific. I can bring in Mega Lucario since I got the Aqua Tail chip and start ramping up the Force Palms. The power-up punch does get shielded. The Force Palm continuing to apply pressure as they'll go for a power punch of their own, but I am able to take the win thanks to that Aqua Tail chip. We got a tough lead in the next match, leading into a Mewtwo. I'm going to save switch into Zacian. Zacian can do pretty okay in this matchup with Snarl. Opponent, I'm a bit surprised that they didn't throw first there. They had an opportunity to throw in good timing, but did not. And now I force a shield. That's honestly great. If I can just get Mewtwo low, then hopefully Mewtwo often paired with dragons, and a lot of dragons Mega Lucario can do pretty decently against, as long as they're not of the flying variety. And my opponent actually ends up double shielding. I can double shield back, but I would rather just save the shields for Lucario, so I'm just going to let that go. They will be able to make 2 Psy Strikes, so now this is really going to question my commitment to the Mega Lucario here, is how much do I want to save 2 shields for this Pokemon? And I decide, you know what? It's the Mega Lucario showcase, right? So we clearly have to save 2 shields for the Mega Lucario. So unfortunately, I have lost both of my back Pokemon, and now I am just going to Force Palm down the Mewtwo. Let's see what's in the back. I'm hoping they're going to be weak. That is not weak to Mega Lucario. In comes a Xerneas. And this is not looking great. I fire off the Shadow Ball. That does some pretty nice damage. Xerneas is going to fire off a move, and I will commit the shield. Xerneas goes for the close combat. What do they have in the back? It's Primal Kyogre. This thing has not quite double the stats of Mega Lucario, but pretty close. My only hope is a power-up punch into a Shadow Ball, but even this is still not going to be enough. Again, just the difference in stat product and combat power is so severe that unfortunately I'm not able to get the win. Hopping to the final match, Mega Lucario in tough alignment once again, leading against a Mega Charizard. I save switch into Zacian, I Wild Charge, and I'm able to grab the shield. This is a tough call to make. Will they bait? Will they nuke? I commit the shield. It's the Blast Burn. That's a huge shield. I'm looking to farm. Opponent tries for a catch onto Garchomp. Unfortunately for them, because they Mega the Charizard, they're not able to Mega the Garchomp because you can only have one Mega active at a time. I'm looking to farm. Opponent with a bit of a miscount, and that works in my favor. As I make it to the play rough, they just let it go, and they're going to be bringing back in the Mega Charizard Y. Dragon Claw is double resisted, but I'm double debuffed, so I think it will barely knock out here. They don't take any chances, and they go for the Blast Burn. In comes Palkia Origin. Palkia is going to be met with the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will connect. That does a decent amount of damage. I make it to the Aqua Tail, which is very nice, and this will KO unless they commit the shield. It is going to knock out in the back. It's oh, that's not a Mega Lucario. That's a regular Lucario. Again, as I mentioned at the start, these are practice Mega Master League battles with members of my Discord. And in this instance, unfortunately, they had not done the raids to be able to Mega the Lucario yet. So we have the Mega versus the regular. And unfortunately for the regular Lucario, the Mega does have the upper hand and is able to take the win. Now I want to provide some thoughts on Force Palm versus Counter, because obviously I got to try out the new move of Force Palm in today's video, and I'll also provide some thoughts on Mega Lucario. First off, Force Palm is a slightly better move purely when it comes to stats. So Force Palm is going to be a 3-turn move, whereas Counter is 2-turn, and of course, the lower turn duration is always going to be preferred. However, Force Palm is 4.33 damage per turn and 3.33 energy per turn, whereas Counter is 4 DPT and 3.5 energy per turn. So overall, Force Palm by the stats is a slightly better move. But in my view, it's not enough of a better move for it to be warranted using over Counter, as Counter is basically just the best fast move in the game. So Force Palm does look like it's significantly better for raids, so could be worth grabbing one specifically for raiding purposes, but as far as PvP goes, you can use Force Palm. It's not a bad fast move, but I think even with the slight edge in stats, the fact that Counter is 2-turn is going to give it a slight edge overall. And for Mega Lucario, its damage, unfortunately, even for a Pokemon that has like 270 attack, it's purely based off the stat difference there. The damage that it takes versus the damage that it deals really puts it in an awkward spot in the Mega Master League, where there's just a lot of stuff that can just purely outbulk it, even neutrally. Like going up against that Primal Kyogre, I was able to boost up with a Power-Up Punch and land a Shadow Ball, and it still could not knock out the Kyogre, and those waterfalls were shredding me. So overall, I think this should be a pretty good Pokemon for raiding and for the PvE side of things, but for the Mega Master League, I think there are safer options than Mega Lucario. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.